Power to the truth. This is Margo. This is Sunday, February 24th, 2019, and it's 4:29 p.m. Pacific Time, United States of America. So we have a new day's worth of methane data from CAMS. Already have the movie loaded. The last time we saw new data was from Thursday the 21st, and we've already seen that a couple of days ago. And then they put up Friday's data last night after I finished my broadcast last night. So we have Friday, February 22nd pulled up, the Arctic view and surface level for methane, and this is from Copernicus Atmosphere Monitoring Services. And so this is where the data left off for Thursday. We saw a heavy release coming out of the Kara Sea to the east of Novaya Zemlya. We saw a huge release building out of Siberia. We saw it releasing from the Laptev Sea in the red and orangey color, all in, then moving across the Arctic and coming across, and then a new release out of the Chukchi Sea. And so we'll just run this movie. It's a little jerky the first time through, but then it smooths out. And see, in the forecast period, we can see that release from Russia moving on up and out in the Kara Sea. Okay, here it is. Now it's going. Look at this. This is in the forecast period. Look at that dark brown and red, and then it's swirling around. And there's ice up there. I'm going to show you NASA Worldview today. The sun is coming up, and almost all of Novaya Zemlya is now in the sun. So I've got a treat for you to show you that today. And we can see it coming down into Canada, releasing as well. Okay, so here it was at the end of Friday, and then we saw that big release coming out during the forecast period. So it's definitely coming up here, and so there's that. And then I pulled up the North Pole view, which gives us a view of the whole northern hemisphere, and I thought we'd run this movie too. And then we can see all of Europe, all the way across, parts of northern Africa. We can see India and China and Asia. We can see all of that and all of Russia. We can see all of Canada and Greenland and the United States and Mexico and Central America, and a little bit of South America. So we're seeing a big release here up in Canada, and we can see more of a release in the United States. Look at that. The United States is more in the red and the dark brown. And then in the forecast period, California has a lot as well. So it's gonna be popping up as things warm up, we're going to see it popping up more and more and more all over the place. We had some Arctic earthquakes since last night too. Remember, we showed that one earthquake on Iceland, but we've got some more. We've got 2, 3 that happened up here right on the red line that I'm going to show you too. So we're going to pause that and set this for our backdrop. There it goes. And now, here's NASA Worldview from today, the 24th. This is the Arctic view, and here's Greenland. Here's Novaya Zemlya. Here's the coast of Siberia and Russia. Here's Norway. Norway down here. Here's the UK. So then here's Alaska and Canada, and all of this is Russia. So let's zoom in. We can see this dark circle is getting smaller and smaller by the day. So that's where it's dark still, but the sun is starting to come up. And so by the I think by the end of March it should be all the way up. So here's Novaya Zemlya, and we can see there's a little bit of sea ice around the bottom here, but look how clear it is on this east side. There's like none, and look how broken up it is. And it never really came back good. If you remember, you know, when we looked at the Navy computer model, this was purple and not very concentrated. And so here we can see, this is clouds that we're looking through. We can see the edge of the sea ice here. This is off the coast, and so it's going to be melting fast. And then we've got quite a bit of cloud cover here. If we turn on our ice surface temperature layer, we can see where it's not colored, it's where clouds are. Where it's colored, it's where the ice surface is. And this reading is in Kelvin. And so this ice is pretty warm. That's 271. So that's right there is 271 Kelvin. So that's fresh water freezes. I think it's at 272 Kelvin. So it has to be colder than that for it to freeze. And then it freezes at a lower level if it's got a bunch of salt in it, which this does because it's mixing from the Atlantic. Here's 272. Here's 271. Here's 269 there. So when you see it in the green, that means it's not cold enough for it to freeze. Then when you see it start going into the blue range, it's getting colder. So let's see if excuse me, see if we can see what's going on up here on the coast. The Chukchi. Can't really tell much. That looks pretty solid. Then here's Alaska. Here's the Bering Strait. We can see that's ice-free there. There's the blue ocean there. See? There's blue ocean, and see, it's a slice and dice there. Isn't that weird how there's no data when we pull out, but when we go in, there's data? That's weird. So maybe that's the old data and they're waiting for the new data to come in. Maybe that's what it's like without the clouds. I don't know. Not much sea ice right there. And then along the coast of Alaska, that's pretty cloudy, so we can't really tell. But we can see through the clouds. Here's the sea ice. This is in the I'm having a brain fart. Beaufort Sea, sorry. Once I start saying these a lot, I'll remember them. Look at this broken up sea ice. You can see that very clearly. That's called grease ice there, where it's just streaming. It's just barely coating the surface. That's just a little bit of ice. Like a film. That's why it's called grease ice. So that's what that looks like in the Beaufort. Actually, we can see it pretty good. Lots of cracks. So there's that. And then we're getting into clouds down here. These are the Canadian islands. And then coming on down, here's Greenland. And this is the Baffin Bay. This is pretty frozen. Here's the ice. You can see it here. And there's the edge of it there. And it's come away from the coast of Greenland. See? At that part. And then here's the edge of the ice down here. And then here's the southern end of Greenland. And this is pretty cloud covered, but we can make out the ice edge right along here. Just a thin ice edge around that east coast of Greenland. Let's look at those temperatures. That's 262. So that's colder over here than it is over by Novaya Zemlya. Look how warm it is here above Iceland. 276. Look over here south of Norway. 279. That is like super warm. Let's see, what else was I going to show? Oh, here's south of Alaska. That's 278 right there. Anyway, you get the idea on that. So we're going to leave that up. Next, I'm going to go to Robin's comment, and then we're going to go over other comments in a minute. From Seymour Rocks 97, these are all under my video from yesterday, sulfur dioxide and earthquake report. He says something strange has been happening down under. You know, he's from New Zealand. Cyclone Oma, which yesterday was billed as one of the most dangerous cyclones to ever form in Australia, seems to have disappeared, or rather skedaddled back up to New Caledonia. And he did a whole blog post on it. If you want to read about it, you just click right there, and there were all these warnings to stay clear of the beaches and this and that. Here's what it looked like on Earth Null School, and then 24 hours later it's just kind of fizzled out and broken up, and so on and so forth. And so if you want, we can look on NASA Worldview, because I've been showing it down there. And here's what it looks like today. See, this is it, and it looks like this is a different cloud system that's forming here, but this is what's left of Oma, and its tail has retreated from New Zealand, and they're not even getting any rain, it doesn't look like. See? Not from that system. It's not looking good for them. They're still in the drought. So, you know, looks like Oma decided not to move on down. So, oh, I was going to show you something else. Let's look at Climate Reanalyzer. I was going to show you the precipitation. Let's look down there and then we'll come back to the United States. Here we go. So there's New Zealand, and it looks like it's getting some rain over the southern part of that North Island, and the northern part is not. The green is rain. And just a little bit on the coast, the east coast of that southern island. That's what it looks like right now. But Oma's gone. Oma's fizzled out. And in the meantime, look at North America and the United States. We've got this huge weather system that everyone's talking about over this on the eastern states and going out over the Atlantic Ocean. Look at that. It's dumping, and then where it's colder, it's snowing like crazy. And on up into Canada. And then over on the west coast, we've got a new system coming into California and Oregon with snow ahead of it, and then some rain. I mean, we just cleared out. All of this is what was over here a few days ago. So it's just one right after another. It's just, it's not stopping. So there's that. So if you want to read Robin's article, I will leave the link below, and you can also go to the comments from yesterday and click on it. Next, I have an article that I want to share. This is from the dailymail.com from the UK. And this is from when was this? February 15th. And it says, mountains buried 400 miles underground could be bigger than Everest. This is about earthquakes and the mantle of the earth, and it's a new study that they're doing. It's really interesting. Topography rougher than that of Everest had been found deep inside the earth. Shockwave data from the second largest earthquake was analyzed for the study, and this was done in Bolivia. Scientists have referred to these as mountains in the Earth's lower mantle layer. They are at a boundary space 410 miles straight down from the Earth's surface, and they may be caused by chemical mixing of the different layers inside the Earth. An underground mountain has been discovered that lies 410 miles beneath the Earth's surface that's taller than Everest, and this equates to 600 kilometers. A study by Princeton scientists into the boundary between the upper and lower mantle of the Earth have surprisingly found ridges and clefts that are potentially rougher than anything on Earth. They are located at a boundary 410 miles or 600 kilometers straight down into the Earth from the planet's surface. So here's a picture, here's a cutaway of the surface and the boundary between the upper and lower mantle. Here's the upper mantle, and then they're showing this boundary, and it's like upside down mountains, like a mountain range, and then the lower mantle. And they're calling it topography, or it's like this whole, all these mountains that just cover the whole inside, is what they're thinking. Dr. Wenbo Wu, one of the geophysicists on the paper, said, in other words, stronger topography than the Rocky Mountains or the Appalachians is present at the 660 kilometer boundary. Using wave data from a 8.2 magnitude earthquake in Bolivia, mountains and other topography were discovered on the base of the boundary. The earthquake was the second largest deep earthquake ever recorded and took place in 1994. The most powerful waves on the planet come from giant earthquakes that can generate shock waves which travel through the Earth's core to the other side of the planet in all directions and back again. And we're seeing that. We're absolutely seeing that. The data from the shock waves allowed data scientists to study deep into the Earth by modeling wave data on the kind of topography that could have caused it to scatter in such a way. And Dutch Sense talks about this too. They do so using powerful computers, as Princeton's powerful Tiger cluster, to simulate the complicated behavior of scattering waves. Dr. Wu, now a postdoctoral researcher at the California Institute of Technology, added, "We know that almost all objects have surface roughness and therefore scatter light. That's why we can see these objects. The scattering waves carry the information about the surface roughness. In this study, we investigated scattered seismic waves traveling inside the Earth to constrain the roughness of the Earth's 660 kilometer boundary." So they're showing this earthquake from 1994, the epicenter here in Bolivia. Looks like it was quite a ways north of La Paz. And using wave data, the mountains and other topography were discovered on the base of the boundary. Here's another picture. That's a picture of Everest. These studies can tell us a lot about the Earth's formation and how heat and material can travel through the Earth's and its different layers. Through the Earth's different layers. But no one knows exactly how these huge jutting mountain structures may have evolved, but it's likely a result of movement of material and chemical mixing between the layers. Dr. Wu said the smoother area of the 660-kilometer boundary could result from more thorough vertical mixing, while the rougher, mountainous areas may have formed where the upper and lower mantle don't mix as well. Speaking to Dr. Jessica Irving, who led the research, said, "What's exciting about these results is that they give us new information to understand the fate of ancient tectonic plates which have descended into the mantle and where ancient mantle material might still reside." And if you want to see the full study, you can click right there and you go to the Princeton study. Then they talk about what causes earthquakes and this and that, and the tectonic plates and the whole thing. So I found this article quite interesting, so I will leave the link below. And you can see all the different plates. They're in different colors here. I like this map, and it shows the name of them too, like the African plate, South American plate. Oh, that's a nice map. I think I'm gonna have to download that. So that we can use that as a guide. There's an Indian plate, Arabian plate, there's the Eurasian plate, Philippines plate, Australian plate, and then Pacific plate. And I think there's an Antarctic plate. There's the Nazca plate. What's that one? I mean, it's so little you can't see it. So, anyway, there's that. And remember, when we look at earthquakes, the deepest ones we've seen have been about 600 kilometers in depth. Maybe just a little bit over. And so that would be in that range before it hits that mountain range underneath, that other boundary. So now let's cover comments that have come in. Nostradamus, he's talking about the locusts. He said they'll just blanket spray powerful insecticides everywhere. There are locusts indiscriminately killing everything, including all the beneficial species. Why can't they just let nature take its course? No, they're not going to, because they want to play God. Thanks, Dave, for that comment. And thank you, Robin, for keeping us informed on what's going on down under, and your link to your blog post, and for all your research. Then Colin Shaw says, to be disconnected from God, which the many are, and think we can be happy with a thought-invented life, which is mere ideas constantly colliding with changing thoughts, which is the nature of thoughts to change many times in a short period of time, and wonder why we are so unrelaxed and tense, instead of giving in and allowing God to remove the chaotic mental noise by becoming passive and letting God's intelligence and love radiate through our essence, which is our soul, and live our lives through us, for us. We must go to God as we are right now, wreckage included. Thank you, Margo, so much for allowing me to say this. That was a beautiful expression, Colin, and I appreciate it, and I totally understand what you're talking about. And this is where I talk about getting out of the left brain, because the left brain is where the rational thought is. The right brain is where the subconscious is, and they actually have found a place in the brain above the right ear, and it's where God lives. They've actually found it. There is a place in the brain that where they think God lives. When we talk to God and get in touch with God and the divine, that's in that part of the brain. And you can't do it with thought. And this is why the old yogis and the masters would teach to quiet the mind and would talk about meditation so much. And the goal in meditation is to quiet the mind and to quiet your thoughts. And it's hard to do. It's hard to do, and it's frightening to just be sitting alone with your thoughts. And when I started meditating, that was one of the hardest things to do, was just to get into a daily meditative practice. And I couldn't sit for 10 minutes even, it was just too scary and too weird, and everything would race and race and race, but I just kept sitting and kept sitting and kept sitting, and then finally things started slowing down. And the idea is to just watch the thoughts and not latch on to them, because one thought creates another thought, creates another thought. But if we just watch them and let go of engaging in them and just observe them, like a puffy cloud high up in the sky, or like a camera lens going out of focus. And so we unfocus on that reality and allow our minds to become clear. And then when you can get into that space between the thoughts, then you can start having some true amazing enlightenment and communication, and the peace that comes beyond all understanding, that peace and the rest that comes just from shutting down the thoughts. And that's where we get in touch with God. And that's the only way to do it. You can't, some people do it through prayer. I use a combination of prayer and meditation for myself and for my clients that I work with. So thank you for that comment, Colin, and I totally agree. And thanks for being here. Tom Bell says, thanks, Margo. You're welcome, Tom Bell. Just so info for you, yesterday in Wales, where I live, my outside thermometer measured 21 Celsius at midday on Sunday. So this is in February in Wales, 21. The SRM deployments that turned the blue sky to goop managed to reduce the radiant heat from the sun by early afternoon. I believe it was a new record temperature for Wales in February. All the bees seem to have woken from winter hibernation and are working hard to find any pollen as we're still in winter. Just another made week on planet Earth. Love you, Margo. Thank you, Tom. I love you too. And those poor bees, well, at least you have bees. They're dying out over here because of all the pesticides and the beaming and cell phone towers and God knows what. So thanks for the report from Wales, and thanks for being here. Then Michael Berlin says, thank you much, Margo, and stay strong in Christ. I will, and you too. And you're welcome, and thank you for being here. And we all need to stay strong in Christ. That's, some kind of deep spiritual faith is the only thing that's going to get us through what we've got coming. what we've got that's facing us. So I'm going to take a short break and then we'll be back with earthquakes. Okay, we're back, and I just took a peek at sulfur dioxide over on CAMS and noticed this new release down here to the east of Madagascar, which is near southern Africa, and I thought this was interesting. And when we see a big release like that, it usually is indicative of volcanic activity or large earthquake activity. Either it's happening now or going to happen. So there's that. So I thought I'd leave that as a backdrop. And now let's go over to USGS. And we have all magnitudes for the last 24 hours pulled up here, showing 168 earthquakes worldwide. And then if we go to 2.5 magnitude and higher, showing 29 worldwide. So we're going to start in Indonesia. It looks like this one will be coming off the map in a few minutes here. This 4.6 near Tobelo, Indonesia. This one came in yesterday at 5:46 p.m. It was 117 kilometers deep. So we just saw that article about the deep earthquakes and how they make it ring all through the planet and make things happen on the other side. This one is pretty deep. 4.6, and it looks like it's there's some little islands off the coast of this this big island here. So that probably didn't do any damage because it looks like it was mainly in the ocean, but there's that. If it was bigger, that would have done damage. So 4.6 there. And plus, with it being deep, a lot of times the deeper ones don't do damage at the surface. So then here's one on land, a 5.1 near Tilamuta, Indonesia. This one came in at 5:29 this morning, 93 kilometers deep. So it's showing the little wave. So let's see if there was a tsunami warning issued with that. Well, let's see here. No, it doesn't look like it. The latest tsunami warning was the 23rd, and we're on the 24th now. So, no tsunami warning on that. 5.1 right there in a populated area that could cause damage. So we saw those two. Next, let's come on over here. Look at these, so close to these islands. This is near Timor, it looks like. 5.1 near Lata Solomon Islands at 11:50 this morning, 112 kilometers deep. So that was another pretty deep one. Then coming on up here to the Philippines, 4.5 in the ocean off the coast of Puropingat, Philippines at 11:27 this morning, 49 kilometers deep. Then over here in the Andaman Sea was a 4.4 near Port Blair, India. That's the reporting station at 9:12 this morning. So where we saw that sulfur dioxide release was right over here. So it could have been a volcano, if there are some volcanoes here. Reunion. I think there's some volcanoes here, so that could have been a volcano release. Okay. Now let's move on down. Where was I? We've got this one way down, 5.5 near Macquarie Island region. We're in the Macquarie Island region. This one happened last night at 10 o'clock p.m. These are all Pacific time. Right on that red line. And I want to show you something. New Zealand, we're not seeing anything, but yesterday there was one that came in right down here, and it didn't show up on the map until hours after it registered, and so I didn't get to include it in my report yesterday. So if we go 7 days, let's look at 7 days all magnitudes. Well, that's not showing up. Oh, that's 4.5 and higher. No, I meant all magnitudes. 7 day all magnitudes. There we go. This is the one that was from yesterday, and it was on the land, on this, actually in that little gulf, Lake Grassmere. It's a lake, it's not a gulf. See, the land goes across there. It was a 4.1 near Blenheim, New Zealand. This came in yesterday at 12:56 p.m., 17 kilometers deep. So this is an earthquake-prone area. Remember, we've talked about this, and I showed our an article about it, with this fault line coming down to the east of this northern island. Then it cuts right across the southern island and goes right across down the west side of the southern island. And then there's all these methane reserves in the ocean here. I mean, on the seafloor, and so that's an area we have to keep our eye on. So I just thought that was interesting. Next, let's come on up. We saw that one. We saw that one. Let's look at this one that just came in China. This was a 4.6 near Yanling, China at 4:40 this afternoon. Then here's one in Afghanistan, a 4.1 near Alkahat Dari, Kiranwa, Mujan, Afghanistan at 1:37 this morning, 122 kilometers deep. So that one was pretty deep. Then here's one off the coast of Greece. We're seeing them here almost every day, near Lothakia. This one happened at 2:41 this morning. on that red line. Next, I'm going to go to 2.5 magnitude and higher now. No, wait. Let's go on over here to Central America. We'll do these next. We've got this first one was a 4.5 near La Libertad, El Salvador. This one happened last night at 7:07 p.m., 35 kilometers deep. And then a 4.5 near Puerto El Triunfo, El Salvador at 3:58 this afternoon, 53 kilometers deep. Then here's one in this little Gulf area, Mar Muerto, a 4.0 near Paredon, Mexico at 12:48 this morning, 78 kilometers deep. While we're here, let's go to the Dominican Republic. Let's go to all magnitudes. We've got 11 here today, mainly around Puerto Rico. And we've got 2.5, 2.4, 1.8, 2.4, 2.0, 2.4, 2.0, 1.9, 2.8, 2.9, and 3.1 is the highest one. So the magnitude has gone down there at least. Yeah, that 3.1 is the highest. Now, let's go on up here to the North Atlantic. Remember we saw one here right on Iceland yesterday? Well, when you're out far away, that looks like one dot. But when you start zooming in, it's 3 dots. All pretty much in the same place. So let's get our bearings on where this is. Here's Iceland. Here's Svalbard. There's Svalbard. And so it's between Iceland and Svalbard. Here's Jan Mayen, that little tiny island. Remember, we've seen things here before. So we've got 3 right here. There was a 4.3 at 4 o'clock this morning, a 4.2 at 6:18 this morning, and then a 4.5 at 7:13 this morning. So within about 3 hours we had 3 right there, right on that red line. I'm always interested in the Arctic earthquakes because of the sea ice and what's going on up there. Now let's go down to Hawaii. There's 7 on the map here today. This one is in the ocean to the north of the island, a 3.0 near Hawaii, Hawaii at 12:33 this morning. Then I'll just call them off. So 6 besides that one. 1.7 at 0 kilometers depth, 1.8, 2.1 at minus 0.4 kilometers depth. Now that's at Kilauea. Remember, we've shown that before. 1.8, 2.4, and a 2.3 at a minus 1.4 kilometers depth. So when it says minus in the depth, it means that the earthquake happened up in the mountain or in the crater. This is the crater of Kilauea, so we've got 3 in there today. Now we're going to move on up to Alaska. Got this one down here in the Aleutian Islands, a 4.0 near False Pass that came in last night at 9:07 p.m. Let's look at the 2.5 magnitude and higher to start with here. That's all magnitudes. All magnitudes is 58. If we look at 2.5 magnitude and higher is only 3. No, 5. Where are they showing up? Maybe they're... oh, they're layered. They're stacked up over here. Uh-oh, I didn't mean to do that. I don't feel very coordinated today. Oh, there they are. Now we can see them. 4.0, 2.5, 2.8, 2.6, and 3.1. So these two were at Eielson, I don't know how to say that, or Eielson Air Force Base. Well, not at the base, but 38 kilometers away from the base. These two right here. And not too far from Fairbanks. See? Over to the east of Fairbanks. So if we look at all magnitudes now, we can see them just coming down through the center of the state. Got one up here in the north part, a 2.1 near Koktovik, 0 kilometers depth. Then they're coming down. And here they are coming down. There's the Anchorage area. That's the least I've seen there in a long time. 32 on the map area. 3.1 at Willow. I think that's the biggest one. So pretty quiet today. Coming on over to the lower 48 in the United States. We're going to start with this 2.8 near Blanchard, Oklahoma at 7:28 this morning. Next, in Utah, we've got 2. See, they come in pairs at Enoch, Utah. There's a 2.7 at 12:30 this morning. And a 2.0 at 1:03 this morning, right beside each other. Then, up here at Bluffdale, remember we saw that huge swarm here last week, 1.4. So maybe that's calming down right there. Or maybe it's waiting to build again. Who knows? Then in the Yellowstone area, we're seeing one reported at Manhattan, Montana. There's a 2.3 at 6:44 this morning. Coming on across in Washington, there was a 1.2 near Bonnie Lake, Washington at 7:41 this morning, and a 1.1 near Desert Air, Washington at 11:07 this morning. No blasting today. Everyone's resting from blasting on the weekend. No quarry blasts, no explosions. But we still have activity. We've got two right here on the Juan de Fuca plate in the ocean. We've got this one 3.2, they're calling it near Petrolia, California. This one happened at 12:54 this afternoon at a minus 0.3 kilometers depth with it in the ocean. And then there was a 4.2 at 1:05 this afternoon, also at a minus 0.3 kilometers depth. So the first one happened at 12:54, and then this one happened at 1:05, so 9 minutes apart. So something's happening. Definitely. Stuff is happening. Now at the geysers, we're seeing 19 here today. They're all pretty small, ones and under, it looks like. Let's come on across, see what else is going on in Northern California. Here's one east of Redding. 1.9 near Viola, California at 2:50 this morning. And see, it's just northwest of the Lassen volcano area. Moving on down to the Reno area, we've got one north of Lake Tahoe, right there in the mountains, a 0.9. They're calling it near Incline Village at 6:38 this morning. That's it for this area. Pretty quiet over there. There's a few down in the Hawthorne area. Then down here we've got, in the viewing area, we've got 5. I'll call them off. 3.0 near Current, Nevada. This is the biggest one. This one came in at 10:12 this morning. Then a 1.5 at 10:16. 1.7 at 10:16. So at the same time. 1.6 at 1:12 this afternoon, and a 2.4 at 4:10 this afternoon. So it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere. And then a few down here in the southern part. 1.0 near Alamo. So there's that. Now let's kind of go back and forth on California and get the rest of these. In the San Francisco area, here's a 1.3 near Union City at 6:08 this morning. 1.6 near Livermore at 4:21 this afternoon. Here's a 1.1 near Hollister at 8:24 this morning. This red line is the San Andreas fault line. That's pretty quiet. Now we're coming into Southern California. Just have a few right here. 21. That's pretty quiet for Southern California. Nothing in Mexico. 22 when I zoomed out like that. And these are all small ones and under. Here's a 1.9. That's at Korea. That looks like it's the biggest one. Then let's come on up here, see what's going on. Here's a 1.4 near Bodfish and a 0.9 at near Bodfish. Again in pairs, we're seeing them. Then we've got some little ones. 0.6 near Little Lake. 1.2 near Coso Junction. 0.9 near Coso Junction. Coming on up. 1.7 near Tom's Place, that's at Mammoth Lakes. Nothing at Mono Lake or Mono Lake, that's how they say it. I think that's it. Let's zoom out and see if I missed anything or if anything else has come in. What's come in there at Hawaii? 2.3. I think we saw that. Yeah, we saw that. At the minus 1.4 kilometers depth. Yep, we saw that. We got Yanling, China. We got El Salvador. I think that is a wrap. So, I hope everyone has a good rest of their weekend, is ready to start your work week. And some of the people around the world have already started their work week. So I love you guys, and until next time, I think time is very short, and I recommend everyone get your spiritual houses in order. And take care, God bless, and go in peace, and I'll talk to you soon. Good night.